podcast. For today, we got a special episode. Today, we have the loveless, glorious Jesse Marr.
The beloved, the most audacious. Hello.
Look how sexy he is. All right. And then today, we have special guest, G, the one and only.
It's like a man that needs her. I'm just kidding. Hello, guys.
No introduction needed.
And also, can't forget, we have OG Daddy Norbert side in the back.
The camera. We wish we could see him right now. We'll put a picture, bang, right
Sexy.
here of Norbert. I'm already starting the editing for you.
All right. Well, today, guys, we're going to be interviewing G, introducing you guys, getting to know him a little bit more. Hello, G. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you guys?
Doing good.
Oh,
Shit.
Oh, and my name is Davin Tran. Nice to see you guys again. Back with another episode. All right. I'm so sorry.
Hey, we're getting used to it, guys.
Yeah.
We're kind of, still kind of in the starting phase, so we're getting used to it a little bit.
Last time I was in the hot seat and I had a tough time just doing the intros and call outs and everything. It's not an easy thing to do if you're not a very YouTube centric person. I'm still very camera
I think
shy.
even if you are, it's not easy.
Even
to
if
do.
you are, even if you are kind of a YouTube centric person, it's hard to get into that mindset. I don't know how some people do it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still not used to being on camera yet, to be honest.
I don't think I'm on camera, so I'm just gonna pretend I'm not.
All right.
Yeah.
No, that's why I keep my eyes on you guys most of the time, because that's how I just kind of forget that all of this is here. Honestly, I've been thinking about doing a late night version of this podcast with us, but there's no cameras, we're just audio.
Or just
We
keep
should
like
practice like that. Honestly.
That's good practice.
Yeah.
that is
honestly.
good practice. Get in the kind of flow of it too.
Yeah. Well, G, so for the viewers and me and Jesse,
Yes.
how did you get into PBC with the team and everything?
My connection actually started with Norbert here. I think a lot of my current state and where I'm at in my career too is because I met this guy, to be very honest with you. It was in sophomore year, so roughly 3 years ago. I took this on-campus job as a student photographer for one of their divisions, UCI Transportation, basically. I don't know why I smile while saying that. I think people who need to understand why I smile. So there I met Norbert, who trained me in a lot of different ways.
The art of the camera.
The art of the camera. I mean, I had a basic sense of how to use a camera, but then meeting him, and then when he started showing me his work, he started, influencing me in a certain way to kind of work a certain way. But I will say, though, he still did most of the job. When we were at transportation, I was, you all know me how I am.
You were relaxing, chillaxing.
Yeah. So one day we were working, and I said, how was your weekend? Something like that. And he showed me, I just shot a wedding. I'm like, oh, what do you mean you shot a wedding? Because I wasn't even aware that kind of, industry exists. And he's like, oh yeah, I shoot weddings with this one friend of mine, which happens to be Alvis. And then I'm like, oh shit. And then, our relationship grew. I kind of started becoming better at taking photos as well. And he said, we should hop on a wedding one day. And then he introduced me to Alvis. And that's how I started this journey with PBC.
It's cool, man.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So that's how you learn all the basics, from that job that you met Norbert at.
I knew the basics pretty early on. I was definitely into cameras and stuff.
Even before studying
even high school for sure.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
But my background is a little different. I guess I'll kind of go into it because it is kind of like a part of me.
Yeah.
I went to a boarding school for 10 years. But I kind of want to shift the perspective because when I came here and I understood what the boarding school perspective in the US is, it's kind of more towards bad kids or rich kids, stuff like that. But in India, it's kind of to some extent a privilege to attend one because my boarding school is 130 years old.
Oh,
so
man.
That in itself is its own legacy. It's its own culture. And you have to kind of be a certain way to kind of be a part of that. So I was there for 10 years and that was kind of an environment where we used to leave home in the beginning of the year and go home pretty much at the end of it. We didn't have technology, no phones, no cameras, stuff like that. So that's the kind of environment I grew up in.
So how did you get into cameras if you weren't really enveloped in that environment?
So whenever we used to go home for vacation for 3 months, all I would do is watch YouTube. And I went through the whole, Sam Calder phase, the Jay Alvarez at the time phase. So definitely grew up watching all these guys. I mean, I still watch them to this day. And then around sophomore year of high school, our school started expanding. Our school was growing along with me too. They were doing fairly well over time, and it was always great to see that. And then they started doing a lot of more art stuff. So everything was almost mandatory, but by everything there was everything. So there was sports, co-curriculars, arts, studies, everything. That school had a mixture of everything. So I started getting really, lean towards art and a lot of co-curriculars. I used to debate a lot. I used to like do theater a lot.
That's dope.
So I was always that, kind of into the creative side of thing kind of kid. I was decent in academics. I wouldn't say I was like a bad student but I wasn't like, the straight A's. I wasn't like that. I've never been, I'm not that kind of person.
But I mean, recently I've seen you put in a lot of effort for your video and film studies. You recently filmed a little interview with Norbert, and you the production quality of that was really top notch.
Link in the description.
A short little.
I mean, that too was thanks to you because you kind of came and spiced it up with the B-roll there. But I think slowly as I think I've been professionally in this field for like 2.5, 3 years at this point. I can say safely. The more I kind of start to realize is that there's always room to grow, and like I think you should accept that there are people better than you. I think humble your ego will give you the best of the best in this career.
Yeah,
for sure.
I've definitely known individuals who feel like they're just top.
Yeah,
and it's really good to know where you stand in terms of your skill, in terms of where you're at with your career, because we're all relatively young.
Yeah, exactly. Like
that's for sure.
Years matter. I definitely noticed that years matter, especially when you start and stuff. But also, like I kind of started gradually realizing with certain projects, what kind of role I want to take over. So like with the documentary I made for him, I kind of wanted to direct it in a certain way. I'm like, okay, I have this thing in my mind. I'm going to somehow make it, Versus when someone calls me to shoot, I'm like, okay, I'm a photographer that day. Or someone's like, okay, come make a video, I'm a videographer that day.
Documentary work is actually really interesting.
Really interesting. Also really hard. There's this whole conversation we had in class about that is because you call the shots about how to sway the audience, and then that whole class, whatever we learned in that class was not much, but it kind of gave me a perspective on how, all these documentaries that influence me, how biased are they? Or like, how true are they?
Totally.
Yeah. So, cause even if facts exist and if facts are presented in a certain way, they'll influence you the way they want it. So, I'm not saying, right or wrong. Of course, right or wrong exists, but, you kind of have to keep in the back of your mind that documentaries are not to tell the truth, in my opinion. Documentaries just to share a perspective.
What documentary were you working on recently?
Oh, I made a documentary about Norbert's photojournalism work, and he had a lot of experience in that whole field, and not only about the good things that photojournalism does for this world, but also how the environment of that industry can sometimes, or more so than often, be very negative. So I kind of wanted to kind of encompass that in the documentary. Yeah, there should be a longer cut. I think I'll try to work on it soon, but in the short cut, we kind of dive a little bit into that.
That's dope. Yeah.
I mean, I think photojournalism is really interesting, but I think when we have Norbert here, we should talk a little more about that.
Yeah. He knows it all. He knows the ins, the outs. He knows the risks and everything. Yeah. He's the man,
photojournalism. It's a cool like hobby to start off with and career if you can get into it. But that's the hard part, making money.
I just think that it's such an important and underappreciated thing. Because when we hear something in the news, say it's political or something, right? We're gonna want a picture to supplement that. It's something to just read an article about something that happened maybe in a court.
Yeah.
But it's another thing to actually see those photos. Have you seen the photos of Putin and the president of France, Macron?
No, I haven't.
They had a discussion with one another, and there's just a really famous photo right now of them being on the opposite ends of a long table.
Yeah.
And we got that photo. If we didn't get that photo, that we wouldn't have like this much buzz around it, I think, because we would just see it as like, oh, they're just discussing stuff.
Right.
But it's,
Yeah, I think the other thing which, over time, of course, photography has developed a lot, but I think the basic thing that people forget is that the basic essence of photography was always to document. And thing is, words can lie, pictures cannot. And that's a fact. A word can lie.
I actually don't think. I think pictures can lie.
Pictures can lie, but
They can be deceiving.
not to the point of like, I'm not saying like manipulation or whatever, but I'm talking in terms of strict documentation.
Strict documentation. Yeah, if you have the context necessary, then
yes.
a photo can lie.
As long as you interpret openly, it cannot lie.
Like, I mean, you know what I mean by
Yes.
that.
Of course.
A picture is it's a representation of that moment,
Right.
in its entirety almost. Versus, what you say to it is different. But what a picture is,
I'm just saying, like, you can take a photo and take it in such a way so that it can be taken one way or the other.
And that's an issue in the photography world in general, because especially when you go into fine art photography, this is the biggest issue that people talk about is what is the context of this photo?
That's also why I think wedding photography and event photography is so nice, because there's really no space for that. You're not there.
Context established.
You context is established, and there's no way to really spin the story in a bad way, because you're there to make people look beautiful, make people look happy. This is the happiest moments of their life.
Right.
So
it's kind of interesting because I was having this conversation with Mom last night too. She's like, do you ever wonder why they want you there? I never asked that question about
like the couple, the wedding couple.
Why do people want wedding photographers? I mean, of course, everyone wants to look pretty and have pretty pictures, but
document.
I think something that beautiful I kind of realized yesterday. I'm like, dude, I am there as the proof it happened in a way.
Everyone who was there could say they saw it.
Yeah,
but a photo says another thing.
Says another thing, exactly. So I think I'm not saying it's a burden or a pressure or any sort of stress, but I'm like it's sort of beautiful in its own way that we kind of legitimize a marriage in a way if you think about it.
Yes,
there's pressures to it, but it's a good pressure.
It's a fun pressure.
It's a fun pressure.
We kind of add that sense of permanency to that marriage. Like, look how beautiful you were on our wedding day. Like,
you vouch for them. It's almost like you're vouching for the couple that
it's gonna be hopefully be all of us one day, like looking at our wives. Say, hey,
I don't know.
That was us.
Yeah, you've gotten prettier every single day since then.
Well, that's all.
Ain't that the truth? All right. Well, G, can you tell us maybe something about like your favorite hobbies or like things that you're interested in as a person?
I'll just begin with something that's short and sweet because I'm kind of in the process of quitting it. Video games, I hate it as much as I love it at the same time.
What do you mean?
But I was really into it for, especially pandemic. I played a lot. Naming Call of Duty, the Modern Warfare 2019. I have like over 34 days played on that game, and like that's not a healthy for anybody.
What?
34
days online. That's counting on not the offline matches. You warm up and all that. So yeah, I was pretty serious about it recently, and then I kind of just gave up.
What rank did you reach?
Before, now it's been like 3 iterations after that, but at a time I was top like 1% in like stats at least. I kind of grinded the shit out of that game.
But he doesn't stream. I'm
not into that. It was more of a ego feeding process to like, make yourself feel that I'm better than so many people. Yeah. But just for gaming, But I think gaming is supposed to be something competitive.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Did it eat you up eventually?
It ate me up because. After a point, I'm like, dude, I'm putting so much money into this.
Right.
I'm supposed to so much hours into this, but I'm like not getting much out of it. So I'm like, dude,
money wise, what were you doing?
I would buy the skins, man.
Oh my skins!
I would most definitely buy the skins and like
microtransactions in general.
Passes, No, I think
that can get addicting.
My best friend calls me out for that all the time. He's like, you need to stop spending money on iPhone games, and like that is, I think, one of my biggest. Addictions almost, man. I like spending money on phone games. As worst as it is, it's something that I kind of get happy playing. So I'm gonna spend $5 if it makes me smile.
What's a phone game you've been playing recently?
The phone game I'm playing right now, I'm playing 2 phone games, 3 phone games. So one is cardgames.io, on which I played Big 2 or 13.
Bro, no.
So, I mean, that one doesn't have any microtransactions. So
okay, good.
But God. Very toxic game, very fun, competitive game to play.
Is it gambling?
No gambling, no money involved. It's just a card game.
Because I have blackjack on my phone, but
it's free or money.
It's free.
It's free.
Yeah.
But like once you run out of like in-game money, it gives you the option to buy.
That's how they get you.
I'm not doing that.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. We're smarter than that.
The next one is Golf Battle. Dude, Golf Battle is a mini clip game, man. Like,
dude, wait, I have that game. Like, Golf Battle is some
you grew
clip
up on
of
mini
golf.
Yeah,
it's right here.
Did that cost money too?
Okay. Now that's where it gets kind of deep,
much?
Man. Because thing is, this game kind of had a pay to win model. So you pay, you get certain clubs, and then you kind of upgrade your stuff, like stuff like that, and then.
It's got the Clash Royale chest.
Some of those clothes look nice, didn't it?
Sometimes you have $50 lying around. Sometimes you have $80 lying around. I'm not saying I don't know what I spend.
I don't have $2 laying around. I don't like spending.
That's why I said sometimes. I'm not saying every day. So yeah, that game took a lot of my pocket for sure. It does.
Was it online features too?
It's online, and then I'm getting all excited talking about it.
It's honestly a really fun game.
It's a really fun game,
you played it too.
And you can play with your friends as well.
It's tight.
And then, there are certain tournaments where you can put in your money. Well, I feel like it's actual money, but it's not that money you can withdraw.
Right.
It's like this in-game money.
That's
Like,
cool.
very addicting, very, very toxic, and very, very bad for you.
What's that called again? Golf battle?
Golf battle
Golf
by
battle.
Miniclip Facebook, basically. And then,
Check out PBC Gaming right here. It doesn't make
PBC
sense.
Gaming.
Yeah. And the last game is Fun Run.
Fun Run.
Fun Run 3. Oh my God. Like, it's honestly such a fun game to play time to time.
When was that cool? High school?
Yeah, okay, that was
High
Fun
school.
Run. That was Fun Run 2.
During class in high school, man.
Middle school was Fun Run, and then high school was Fun Run 2.
Fun Run 2 was
And
high
then,
school,
I think like Fun Run 3 is like now. And dude,
I didn't even know Fun Run
like,
3 was out.
I have a 13, and playing that game on it's just a nice display to play a game on too. Sometimes
You have a what?
iPhone
13?
13. It's like a good display to kind of play games
If you're
on.
down to get the small iPad Air, bezel-less iPad Air for those games, because I feel like it's a way
I
better
have an
platform.
iPad.
There you go.
But I mean, phone games are its own thing. You're waiting for something, you're waiting for your coffee.
Did you play
You
COD
like the
Mobile?
convenience.
No, I did not play COD Mobile.
okay.
No, that was because I think I kind of stopped playing games when they demand too much of me. Like that's why I didn't like Fortnite, because I'm like, you're asking me to fight people, defend myself, build it, collect the build, and regenerate my shield. I'm like, dude, what are you?
It's
talking about?
exhausting. It's
Like, how are you
exhausting.
gonna ask that from a consumer, man? Like, I call me lazy, sure, but like that's you're asking too much of a player.
Honestly, I never liked the Battle Royale model. I never got into it. I played Fortnite. I played PUBG. But I've
PUBG was
only played
different.
a handful of
I played a handful of
those
games,
rounds.
yeah.
I've only played a handful of games, and I've never won a single game because I never really cared.
PUBG was a wave for sure. Though.
PUBG was totally a wave. Yeah,
I
'cause it
just don't
was
like it compared
smart.
to Call of Duty or like Battlefield. Not as much action as.
I mean, because it was forerunner of BR almost. I will put it there.
of what?
A forerunner of Battle Royale. Like they were the first.
It was
games
PUBG
to kind of-
and then
Oh, yeah,
DayZ
yeah.
Right.
that kind of began the whole
whole
Battle
BR
Royale model.
situation. Yeah.
And it was cool for the time. But
It was
honestly,
interesting.
I grew up being a little Halo boy and a Call of Duty boy. I'm right now. I'm only playing like really Halo Infinite and maybe sometimes Valorant.
Right.
But I love Team Slayer or
Right.
Objective.
What was the other
Model.
one? Overwatch.
Overwatch.
style? Yeah.
Overwatch is
I
like
didn't
the
play it, but- I
TF2
didn't play
competitive
that.
model.
Yeah.
Overwatch is fun. I was actually part of a
It just kind
smaller
of took
team.
like CS on a different level.
Does it look like Counter Strike
No,
or
it's
what?
totally different.
You guys never played Overwatch?
I never.
No,
played
I never played
Overwatch.
Overwatch.
Well, it's either capture a point objective or move a certain objective to somewhere else.
Oh, so it's
and
like-
that's it.
It's like
But,
Hardpoint or
basically,
Yeah.
but all the characters you play have their abilities and they have their roles. So it's a whole like
it's like Black Ops
chess
4
situation.
On drugs,
A
basically.
little bit.
crazy.
It's
yeah.
a chess situation.
Chess.
And that's what makes it really interesting, because not only are you supposed to balance
power
your
balance,
hand-eye
Right.
coordination,
Yeah, of
like being able to hit your shots, but you're also supposed to have this game sense of like, okay, I
Do I
just killed that
protect
guy.
or do I-
I just killed that guy. He's gonna be out of the game for now 15 seconds. That gives us a window to do
Yeah.
this.
Was Overwatch that
Creating an
FPS
opening. Yeah.
that was super realistic?
no, that's
That's
what do you mean?
Tarkov.
Tarkov, yeah. Tarkov is
Tarkov. That
Escape to
was,
the
Tarkov.
VR.
yeah.
Okay, because I remember there was a game where my brother told me like one shot you're dead. Like it was super realistic.
Tarkov.
Like
Tarkov.
okay,
either Tarkov, or people can say even CS:GO, but CS:GO is unrealistic in
Very
a sense.
unrealistic.
yeah.
I mean, yeah. Basically, for gaming, I don't play much, but I like to watch a lot too. Like I'm
It's
a
fun.
big YouTube gaming consumer. Like I will watch gameplays of games I don't play.
Right. I used to watch PewDiePie playing scary games as a kid.
If you didn't watch that growing up,
It
you had a
was so
problem.
entertaining.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
I would get scared.
Markiplier here.
You guys ever watch his horror videos and he'd be like Mr. Barrel or like Mr. Chair?
He played the Slender
Oh my
Man a
God.
lot. I
Yeah,
remember.
Slender Man.
Slenderman was like my main hook into the whole scary YouTube gaming
Last of
phase.
Us,
Last of Us.
Slenderman.
There was
Yeah.
also, when Finance at Freddy's barely came out, I was on that wagon hard.
That thing was scary.
What's
I
that?
was
For real.
that was freshman year high school
Yeah.
for me.
And that popular zombie game,
DayZ,
whatever. Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I should just watch gaming content like that.
Oh, Left 4 Dead.
I think so. Yes, PewDiePie used to play that one. I don't even remember.
Yeah,
what game that
there was Left 4 Dead. Man, there was way more too.
But yeah, video games.
Yeah.
I mean, I still play video games. It's not as addicting for me as I imagine it would be for you. Because for me, the only time video games are a problem is when I have a project or something due. I'll be editing for anyone in PBC, and I'll be like, no, I can squeeze in a quick game of Halo. But
Yeah.
then one game turns to four, and it's
hours,
like, dude,
hours on it.
yeah.
I mean, I don't think necessarily addiction, but like I think I just get I'd have addictive personality. Like if I get into something, addictive personality.
That could be good.
Yeah,
But it could also be really good detriment.
That's how it started with this too. I just got super addicted to these things, and then I just wanted to see it through all the way, and the way it's still going.
So at this point though, like you're trying to like chill out on that. Is that?
Yeah, I'm kind of done. Like I think it's kind of like I'm over it. I did the best I could. And I kind of saw it through.
Right. And you know what? The first step is acknowledgement, realization.
Yeah, man.
I mean, put him through the whole process.
Yeah. For real. But well, moving on. What's some of your other hobbies or interests, man?
So my mom always made sure I was into always something creative all my life. Like even till today, man. Like she's always made sure that I'm doing something, out of the books. So I got into calligraphy in middle school. And,
in English or what?
Calligraphy is just basically a fancy way to write English.
Okay.
Like it's English. Sure. I mean, in English.
Because I know there's like
there's like other. For sure. Yeah, but in English for sure.
Okay.
And after that, I got obsessed with handwriting, like making my handwriting look really, really like
that's dope.
Exquisite. I think I was kind of obsessed with my, notion that I want to have really good handwriting.
Wow.
Which arguably I kind of do have a really nice handwriting.
I want to see your handwriting.
Now that I think about it, I don't think I've ever seen anything you've written in person.
That's what the problem is, because I don't mean to like kind of go into like a more psychic sense or whatever, but handwriting tells a lot about a person that new people understand.
Really?
Like I don't know if it's an American thing or an Eastern Western thing, but even if you look into like psychoanalysis and stuff like that, I only know this because my mom's a therapist. I just know stuff like that. Like if your handwriting is like left leaning or right leaning, is it straight or cursive? Like they speak a lot about you.
There's patterns to these things. There are patterns
to your, and I mean, even there've been like, crime shows where they kind of decipher. So our writing speaks a lot. And I encourage people to write more than type more all the time.
It's weird for someone like me where my writing, since I was a kid, has been kind of neutered, because when I write, I curl my hand in. And not only am I like constricting the blood vessels in my wrist and everything, but like it messes up my writing.
Is it evident in your writing too?
A little bit, yeah. Oh. This is just how I've done it all the time. And I used to draw a lot as a kid. I used to make little comic books, but I just never could work this out. And lately I've been just trying to work it out of my system, but I can't. Whenever I go back to this, all my writing is very slanted over to the right. And it doesn't work for me. I don't know. So maybe I'd be willing to like take a calligraphy course. I
mean, I took like a course from a calligraphy artist, so it wasn't like a certified university or something. But she was also really amazing as a teacher. And that kind of, led into my obsession with pens for a while. So my dad was a really big pen person. Like he had like fancy looking pens, and I started getting into stuff like what your dads are into. You kind of get into stuff like that.
What's your favorite, gel or ballpoint, or like is there
fountain ink pens? Ink pens, fountain pens are basically they're not gel nor ball. It's like a liquid ink is what you do calligraphy with too as well.
Oh, okay, I see.
Like the classic what you kill the squids in Minecraft for that ink sac.
Yeah. But yeah, calligraphy was I love that. Yeah, it's therapeutic too. I mean, I do it time to time, not like for something, but just kind of write or draw in calligraphy style.
So when you started calligraphy, were you starting to intertwine it into your regular writing too?
Yes, all day. And like it took a while, and then of course you kind of develop your own style after a little bit.
You probably have a nice signature.
No, actually, my signature is very simple.
Wow.
It's a
signature right here. No, I'm just kidding. Don't put a signature right here.
Can we put an example of like G's calligraphy? Like just somewhere.
I'll send you something. That I write. But yeah, calligraphy was a big phase.
Dope.
Actually, this might sound kind of like cheesy, but I didn't date until like senior year, like junior year.
Yeah.
And but all my other friends used to kind of date in middle school, young love, all that. I don't know if any of you are watching this. I know it's been a while, but like if you're hearing this, shouts out to you. But they used to, and I was into like literature a lot. I'll get into that. So they used to make me write their love letters to their girlfriends.
Oh, no.
So like, no. And because our thing was only love letters because we were in a boarding school,
Man's was the messenger.
So I was the words, bro. I made these guys fall in love, to some extent.
Wait, so you were also the like the mind behind what was actually being written.
You were the visuals. I were the visuals, bro.
To some extent, yeah. I mean, we were kids too. Like, not that I knew like the words I know now, but at the time, I did that for like 2-3 years of my life.
I would have thought it would have been a situation where it's like they tell you what they want to write, and you're just there cringing at what they want to say.
I know. Like sometimes looking back at it, I'm like, you see those crazy movies where the girl would fall in love with that idea of the person, and like it's kind of, I don't know, I kind of want to make a play on that someday, maybe, if I could make something out of it. But
were you like using your own words here and there too?
No, I was only using my words. It was a good fun phase, as a teen, it was exciting.
That's crazy.
This is totally the premise to like a movie where
exactly.
It's like Startup, like a drama.
Really?
Yeah, there's a guy in Startup who writes he writes these letters to another girl around his age because her grandma sees that she's lonely and she needs a friend. So she asks this boy to write letters to her granddaughter, but then they start becoming actual friends. And like,
so close enough.
Something like that.
I was thinking more along the lines of that one Disney movie. I forgot the name, but basically, it's like this guy writes songs and he's a ghostwriter for another guy. And there's a girl that he's trying to get at.
Yeah. So that was part of Coco.
Was it?
That was a whole B sequence of Coco. That was the B plot of Coco. Was he wrote the songs and stuff like that?
Yeah, for his daughter. But like in this sense, basically, the songs that the ghostwriter is writing for the artist, because the artist is also trying to get at the girl.
Yeah.
The girl falls in love with the lyrics, but really that's the ghostwriter that she's in love with. She's not in love with the artist.
And that's the whole plot.
It's this whole conflict. Bro, you are that ghostwriter.
Yeah, man. And if you're in love, if you have a significant other, write. I would really encourage people to write to each other. Like, because, people text, sure, but like, I'm pretty sure we've been in instances where we wish we could have, written something.
But like,
deep, you can see it in handwriting more so than text. I mean, it kind of sounds cheesy, I guess, but letters mean a lot.
But have you written to a girl?
Of course.
With your handwriting?
Of course I have. Of course I have. Yeah.
I want receiving letters.
I want to receive one from G.
Sure.
I mean, my girlfriend sent me a lot of letters from, where she's at in Europe. Right. And I've always appreciated it a lot. It makes me realize that I should write more.
That's OG. That's like old school, dude. That's cute.
We talk about it a lot. Like, hey, if we didn't have the technology we had today, this is what we would have to resort to.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy.
It's kind of beautiful. I mean,
How often are you guys switching back and forth, like writing them letters?
She's written me a lot of letters. I have yet to send her a proper letter, just because I'm terrible at writing.
No, I don't blame you, because I think it's just not on this side of the world that much, sadly. Is what I've seen. Because being in boarding school too, we were supposed to write letters weekly to our parents. So we did that whole thing since I was like 7 years old.
Yeah.
So, writing letters definitely is essential. Write letters to people.
I've never sent out like a letter to anyone. I think that's something I really want to try.
I went into
it sounds old school as
U.S. immigration. That's the only letter I've sent recently.
Yo,
but with writing, I kind of got it. I was also heavily into literature at the time. Again, I don't mean to say I'm the best at it, but it was something I was interested in, because we were taught Shakespeare from grade 9 to 12, and when I got to the U.S. first in 2017, I tried to have some conversation about Shakespeare, and everybody had this kind of like stink eye towards Shakespeare. But it's like, I get it; it's not the most entertaining thing, but that's the origin of conversation in English today. So because I think for me, that contribution is so respectable that I'm automatically kind of drawn to knowing about it. If that makes sense.
Think about the English that we speak today, and like the English that people are going to be speaking later on.
Yeah.
And personally, I feel like our English is very dumbed down because we have our slang and we've shortened a lot of words. Maybe it might do a complete 180 in the future, where all of a sudden people are a lot more sophisticated. Maybe they downloaded like a chip to their brain or something. I don't know.
That's the whole thing. I don't think it's sophisticated to talk like that. I think that used to be a norm
back then.
Yeah. So,
but I also like consider it like this: people only really read back then. That was like the only source of entertainment that they had. So you're gonna be learning all these words. Meanwhile, us, we have all the visuals in the world we could ever want.
Right.
So we don't really need to think so much about like words.
No.
So we, as a result, have started using less sophisticated words compared to what we would get if we read.
Our pace of life is so quick that our conversation has changed to just fast, get to the point. Don't give me that deep meaning. Just give me that meaning.
But that's another thing though, because we can extract so much meaning from the way something is said.
That's true.
You're
right.
Like a simple in a song, for instance, could have so much context. If you try to explain it to an old head, like they're not gonna. The guy just said yeah. What do you mean? He just said yeah.
He's not with it.
He's not with it. Sorry, you're not with it, bro. Go to the retirement home. I don't know. Get your cane.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. No.
Yeah. Yeah, literature is cool. Yeah, those are some of my interests, I would say.
Gee, I know you're into poetry.
Poetry too. I mean, that comes from literature, you know.
Right.
Because I think there was this period in my life where my mom made us journal when we were home because she was like, it's a good habit and all that. I mean, I tried for a bit. I keep trying here and there, but I was like, poetry is just so more simpler. Like, you know, you write a couple lines, you're done for the month. You know, versus you're like, what did I do today? You know?
Yeah.
So poetry is just it's a great outlet, honestly.
I find it's super uncommon to find people really interested in that nowadays.
No, it's actually not. Because thing is, the whole narrative on poetry is so different. A rap is a poetry also, but people will never look at it that way because it's like, it's a song, you know.
Yeah.
But poetry is still everywhere, you know. I mean, just putting it into poetry kind of makes it, you know.
No, OG poems like sonnets were basically
love letters.
Also, love letter songs.
Right.
Yeah. So, you know, it's I mean, it helps, you know, kind of be emotional with yourself too, and you know, be emotional towards others. Because I think, you know, it kind of helps you express emotions in a way you probably couldn't. Like, there's some things I could say in poetry which I cannot say to your face, you know.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Now some of those lines that you've read me that you wrote yourself.
We did read some poems.
Those hit with some deep meanings that you won't find in, you know, daily conversation.
Right.
So
because it's hard to bring it out like that.
Yes.
You know, versus it's already on paper.
And that's a side of you that not many people know, G. That's all I'm saying.
It's not many people afford to know.
Well, I mean, like if you go on like a Tinder date or something, is that something you tell a girl immediately? No. Do you like poems, baby?
No. I tried to attempt to write a poem book in freshman, sophomore year of college, and I did end up making one. So I wrote poetry over 3 years, and I chose 14 poems because of a sonnet, because it's 14 lines. So I'm like, I don't know, it's kind of played it a little bit like that, but yeah, it's just a personal logbook, if anything.
There was that one book that was really popular in high school. I think it was called Milk and Honey or something.
Milk and Honey. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
by Rupi Kaur, right?
Oh,
very,
that
very
poem book.
Yeah, it was a really great book.
I think she wrote another one too, which was also pretty.
I think it was like Sunshine and Flowers or something.
Probably, yeah. She's a great modern poet for sure. She writes beautifully.
For sure.
And there's this one, I can't remember the author, but it's called Lullabies. It's like a 200-page book filled with poems. Also, my mom wrote a poem book. Wow. So if you're interested in that,
Amazon link right here.
I might put a link, you know, promote my dear mother here. Yeah.
I'm gonna check that out for sure.
No, hers they are on a very different kind of depth. It's kind of like
you read
different wavelengths.
Yeah, I've read them.
How much is her book? I'm just curious.
I think it's just like $9 or $8. It's just a small
we're
little
copying
pamphlet.
it. We're buying her entire stock and having it.
I'll bring it next time.
Free gifts
I
for
can
the
bring it free next time.
companies.
Yeah, I have like a bunch of copies still left at home.
We ever have clients come in, it's like, you want a copy of one of our clients' books?
No, honestly, I think like our next team hangout, like it'd be so cool if we just had
see my mom's book.
a poetry night.
Oh, dude!
Like
wine
we write
and poetry.
If everything falls through with Oregon, I'm totally down to have one night dedicated. We all just sit down, light a few candles, and just read poetry.
Because on the real, like I said, poetry hits in a deeper meaning, right? And like as a team, as friends, you know, as companions, like if we read our poetry to each other, we will truly understand more of our deeper feelings. This is getting really intimate and like, you know, deep.
I think with poetry is also thing is I think poetry is kind of inspired by, okay, I wouldn't say like a episode, but like, you know, experience. Not necessarily good or bad. Like it could be good or bad, but you kind of have to experience something in a relationship and or in the world.
You should be inspired.
The feelings, emotions.
I don't know. I think you should be affected. I think that's where kind of poetry comes out for me. It's when I'm affected, either positively or negatively.
I think putting yourself in another person's shoes too, and then trying to write poetry about that perspective.
That's hard. That's hard. Yeah. But yeah, that's. I mean, you could do everything.
It's like
you could do a lot.
Empathy.
Yeah, you could do a lot with poetry, but
I mean, that's what Shakespeare kind of did.
I mean, Shakespeare defined a whole generation of both, you know, authors,
directors, playwrights, actors. He held the ground for a bit.
Sure. It's him and Edgar Allan Poe that I grew up on, just because our middle school and high school pushed that down our throats all the time.
Edgar Allan Poe.
You know, I was a shithead kid. I didn't like reading or anything, but you know, I really appreciated how different Edgar Allan Poe was compared to someone like Shakespeare, because I think a lot of his work served to provoke more than anything else because of the subject matter.
Provocation versus representation.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And I think even today, provoking something is still one of the best ways to garner attention from just the entire public.
That's what we do in cinematography, right? We want to provoke something.
So G, like, I know you're really interested in arts and whatnot, but could you tell us more a little bit about that?
I think, like, you know, I keep bringing this up. My mom really wanted to instill art in our family.
Right.
She did that with my sister, with me, herself. So art's just something I grew up with. My mom was big into theater, and she's like, you know, a local celebrity in India. She has a Netflix film or two too.
Wow.
I don't know. I'm kind of promoting my mom here. What? She has like 2 Netflix films in India. Yeah, you know, watch it if you want. I'm just promoting.
Does she
my
have
mom.
an IMDb or something?
She has IMDb.
Damn.
Yeah.
I love her IMDb right here.
Yeah, my mom's pretty cool. But yeah, she really ingrained a lot of art in our family in general. Also, so art is everything. You know, like music is art. You know, painting is art. Calligraphy is art.
Right.
Poetry is art. So she made sure we had an instrument we played and something we chose to write. So she got me into poetry, theater, and drums. So I did a lot of drumming for like 6, 7 years until I stopped recently. But talking about art in general, I think now where I've arrived, I think I'm more at a point where art needs more limelight almost. You know, I think we dived into one of the earlier podcasts about the whole, you know, art conversation. But, you know, art is something you just can't live without, you know.
That's human life.
No, yeah, art, everything, something that pleases you, in my opinion, is art.
Right.
And maybe even TikTok is art, man, at this point. TikTok, whatever you consume is art.
Entertainment, all of that.
Everything is art. Everything has an artistic
everyone's
touch.
got their own definition of art.
Yeah.
But I think one thing with photography, I really, I think it was Sam Damashek, his name is, he said this one line, which kind of got me thinking as an artist too, is like, you know, I can teach you how to use a camera. I can teach you how to, like, you know, where to put a light. I can teach you how to, like, pose. Yeah. But he said, you know, one thing I can't teach you is how to see something. So, you know, that's something an artist has, is their own vision, you know. And it's your vision is what I personally, it's like my vision is what I find, is what I'm looking for all the time.
Right.
So I think, call it your self journey or call it, you know, your kind of pathway in life is, you know, finding what do you see in this world is what and it kind of sounds like cheesy and philosophize, but, you know, it's like, it gave me a pathway to, like, you know, a vision. It was art means to me for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I was recently on a shoot with Alvis, and I mean, I'm still learning how to become a second shooter. I don't really have all these poses in my head. I'm a little more scientific about it. But I noticed that Alvis is a lot more organic. And I know that you and Norbert also a lot more organic about shots, where you'll notice something, and it comes back to that vision. You can see it, and you can't really teach someone to be able to see.
Right.
Alvis saw that one of the windows we were working with inside a house, you could open. It was like a full body size window. You could open it, and right outside was an arch. So what he did was he had the bride stand within that arch with the sun hitting her from the front, but he was shooting from the back. So she had this really nice highlight and a little silhouette going, halo effect, with the arch also outlining her. Frame, right. It was beautiful, and I never would have noticed it. You know? And
it's all about, you know, exposure, how much you're exposed to the world, you know, how much you willingly put yourself out there to not just only see, but experience things, you know, and, you know, through that, you kind of start seeing things in a certain way. Yeah. And I think it definitely translates to work too. You know, given a certain, you like, you know, for example, you visited someone's house and you noticed something, you know, at some party, and then next day you're at a wedding in a hotel, and you're like, you know what, I saw that the other day. You know what, let me just try to do it like that. You know, that's a small example, but I think, like, you know, exposure kind of translates a lot to the way you, of course, see the world. And I think not just about physically seeing, but, you know, what you watch, you know, what you consume, what you read, all kind of translates into what you kind of start seeing.
But you got to be in the moment too when you are exposed to these arts. It's like
100%.
It's like when Jesse
said, you got to be aware
when he's looking at Alvis, you know, rather than just standing there like a dummy, he's paying attention to, like, what Alvis is actually doing,
what he sees,
what kind of art is, like, being exemplified right there and then, and that takes another mindset too, which is really important when it does come to art.
I'm a very visual learner personally. Like, you can explain things to me as much as you want, but if I'm not seeing it, it's very difficult. How do you guys personally learn?
Totally visual, and
for sure.
I think I think I'll be speaking for all of us when I say this is for most of us visual and creative people. There's this one person who put it very beautifully. He said, "Learn 20, do 80." You know, tell me 20% about something, go figure out the rest 80%. And you kind of arrive at the end. You kind of arrive at this place where you're like, "That's G's way of doing something." You know, that's Davin's way of doing. Like for example, making an omelet. You know, you're like, okay, you need eggs, this, but then Jesse will make it Jesse's way. Right. You know, if I just gave you the instruction manual, right. You know, kind of something like that. So ever since I heard that, I'm like, okay, this basic. Okay, thank you. I'm done. I'm going to figure it out. And I mean, there's a risk involved because you will fail sometimes, but
I mean, it's all about experience.
Yeah, but like, I think this learning 20, doing 80 model is kind of worked for me so far. And I kind of enjoy, you know, kind of just, you know, I'm going to throw myself there, see how it goes.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that happens a lot with wedding stuff, especially when you're new to it, because I feel like I was kind of thrown into it the first time I came around to a wedding with Alvis, and I think my first wedding was with you and Alex as well. Mm-hmm. I was kind of thrown like a bird out of its nest. You know, you guys just told me, okay, here's a camera, get some B-roll. We're gonna have a ceremony here, and we need you to capture this and this and this. I have basic knowledge about how to use equipment, right? But the rest came from me just knowing how to use a camera and all that experience, and I didn't have that experience yet. I mean, my first wedding was really shaky, but... Yeah,
but it's doing that 80 has got you where it's at. You knew that 20, but you knew that 20 to its teeth. You know what I mean? You knew the basics. You got the proper instruction from, like, you know, Alvis. I mean, best, you know, one of the best to do it. And then you did the 80, and, you know, it opened your mind in its own way. Yeah. Almost, yeah.
I think even after all these, like, years of doing weddings and whatnot, every single wedding is so unique. And it's like, yo, there's a new venue. There's a new couple. How are you going to pose them? You know, where location are you gonna pose them? Like, even after years of doing the same photography or even same art skill over and over, there's always gonna be another aspect.
It's limitless, man. Right, possibilities are infinite.
Exactly.
Yeah. You can think about wedding photography or event photography as being very bog standard, not really putting much thought into it. But I don't think that's ever something I want to boil it down to.
I don't think you succeed like that.
No, you don't really succeed. Not at all. And I've seen a few photographers who will take those just like nonchalant photos where there's like, okay, I got the moment, but they don't really like give it the extra thoughts like, hey, this is a really nice, this is a nicer moment. I kind of want to put myself somewhere else to do this.
Right.
You know?
Lazy shooting.
Shooting. I don't ever want to be a lazy shooter.
Right. For when it comes to weddings, especially, there's way more than just documenting the moment. Mm-hmm. Like, you gotta make sure the background is something that's gonna exemplify the beauty that was given that day. Right. There's a lot. There's a lot more to the posing than just.
There's another thing too. Like, I want to touch on gear, right? Mm-hmm. Because I know plenty of people who can be given the bare bones, but still have something amazing come out of it.
100%.
Right?
For sure.
Us as a company, we have plenty of gear. But if you really want to boil it down, all we really have most of the time is just a camera with maybe a flash and maybe a monopod, right? We can either go handheld or whatever, but that's about it. I've seen a few people, we have flashes or whatever, but how often are we going to need that flash? You know, and what if you don't have that flash? How are you going to compensate for that?
I think just... I think having so much gear almost, it kind of just translates to the industry we're in, is because we are all about backups of backups of backups of potentially off that backup. Right. You know, I think that's the kind of system we're running. So I think the reason why I have, 2 spare flashes is because I can't be in a situation where my flash can't work because the client is trusting, the company or me with so much money involved too sometimes, and then. Thing is, you can't disappoint when you've showed up. You can't, that's the thing about you just can't disappoint. No. You just can't do it. Can't afford it all.
I do agree with you, Jesse. Like, there comes to a point where there's a diminishing level of return. Like, after you get that lens you wanted or that body you wanted, yo, bro, your work isn't going to get any better after you get that G Master, seriously. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, we can say we want an FX6 as bad as we want, but like...
What do we do much with it?
Will we really need it? Yeah. It's nothing more than clout if you're doing it.
I think, most of the clout, I think it just becomes a hobby.
A little bit.
It's an expensive hobby.
I love gear. I'm sure we all love gear here. Right. And all these tech specs and everything, but like, what does it matter? what really matters is what you're putting in that frame.
What really matters is how you can even use it to the best of its abilities. I think, even having it, people don't use it. But I think even having it, if you can even use it to something, I think it counts.
Right. Totally. Like, what's the story that you're going to tell using that equipment? That's the most important thing.
Yeah, exactly. What are you going to do with the gear is what matters the most. Yeah. So perfect case and scenario, Norbert just brought it up. One time I was shooting this like long day of grad shoots at UCI and my hot shoe came off. Canon, please just fix this problem. I don't know what you guys are doing. But anyway, and then I had to, call Norbert. I'm like, hey man, it's kind of like a 911 situation. I kind of need a flash. Otherwise I can't do this. But, in the meantime, I kind of also understood I don't need a flash. I don't. I can very well recreate or even, kind of close to create an image without a flash too, because I only stepped into using flash when I thought I'm pretty good with natural light. It's only then I started using flashes. Right. I'm like, you know what? I feel confident with my natural light photography, but I think it's time to kind of add some flare in it. Right. And that's when I got into lighting. Right. I was just like, okay, today I'm going to buy camera lights. I wasn't like that. I was like, okay, I'm going to buy a camera. Then I'm going to buy a lens.
Starts with the camera
first. I'm going to use it a while. Then I was like, then I met these guys. They're like, welcome to this lighting world. And then, at school, I was in production classes and they started teaching us how to light in videos. I mean, I'm not that good at it still, but it kind of translated over to photography for me. So yeah, it just kind of, you kind of grow in the sense of like when your gear starts getting collected, I think it's just a sign of growth, if anything.
That's pretty cool. Like how you didn't have that flash, but you're like, wait, I don't need it. I started off without this flash.
I could still do this. Like I could still do this.
Exactly. I feel like it's a pitfall that a lot of newer creators really fall into is they'll watch these tutorials and like, best $500 DSLR setup for photography, and they'll have all this equipment where it's like, you need a flash. Oh, no, you need this SD card and you need this microphone to be mounted on your camera at all times. Yeah. But it's like, you really, or any creative just really needs to start from the bottom and work their way up.
You can't just enter chapter 7
exactly
and pretend it's chapter 1.
Yeah.
You can't do that. And especially with any art field, in my opinion, you can't just enter in the middle. Yeah, so you got to start.
Take your time.
Exactly.
No point rushing into
it. A lot of it really is just a process of figuring out what works best with your workflow. Yeah. Do you like to travel light and efficient, or do you like to really like
load up
and have these bombastic shots where you worked for like 10 minutes or so to really nail it?
And that's what's the high about it.
You get a high.
That's definitely the high. Like, I'm like, okay, it's pitch dark night. I can still take a shot because you know what? I can, because I know I can do it. So, it's just, it was I think my gear, when I look back, I just moved to a house and then finally we got a garage. So I'm like, let me put all my equipment there. And I stood back and looked, I'm like, holy, I did this, I did this.
This is a collection of all my knowledge.
Yeah. And like, even if it's a small clamp, man, and if I'm at a shoot with, a backdrop, I'm done. I can't do anything without it. It'll keep rolling. You know what I mean? So every little thing for me kind of is important to some extent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's awesome how all the gear that we collect over the years kind of represent the acquired knowledge that we got. But when you take a step back and limit how much gear you have on a shoot, that really tests how much knowledge you really acquire.
How good of a creative really are you?
When you're stripped away of like your most important materials and you're just left alone with that camera and lens, like what are you gonna do?
Yeah, but I mean, I think to some extent I can testify that you need flashes at weddings. I don't think many people can say you do. I mean, there are these prime users, who are like, I'll just shoot with primes all day. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, especially, indoors, like, I don't understand.
A nice 24 to 70 really goes a long way.
Yeah, you need lighting.
It's like you could make it work, but like if we're bringing the best value to the client we want to give them
lighting. Right? I just think for weddings, you need lighting. You can argue all day, but that's just my belief. Like, you can't do much without it, in my opinion.
Of course. All right, guys. So that's pretty much wrapping it up today. Featuring our special guest, G, the sexiest in the room.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to my story. I shared what I could. And thank you for guiding the conversation pretty well.
Thank you for giving us a really good perspective on things.
Thank you for putting me out there, finally. So thank you guys
for watching. Link to G's mom's book and IMDb.
Oh yeah, IMDb and the movies. don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Show some love if you came from my story or something. I don't know. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. We will see you in a week or two again. Thank you.